Hello there everyone, I'm Susavile and today I'll be reviewing the Dwarves of Ered Luin faction for the Divide and Conquer mod. Ered Luin starts in a very strange position. They have three settlements but spread out. Their capital is right here, while the other two settlements are a little bit above. In the middle, there's the Grey Havens of Linden, who you are actually allied to, which is something really cool. But that means that you will never be able to, have a secure homeland to expand from. In terms of enemies nearby, they're very easy enemies nearby, which are only the remnants of Angmar. They're very far away foes, such as the orcs of the Misted Mountains, but overall, you should go just in terms of conquest, just go over the mountains and crush everything in all opposition. In terms of objectives, as I've already shown here, 40 regions that include most settlements that are quite nearby, and to eliminate two factions, one of them very nearby and the other one a little bit more away, but it's rather a fairly easy difficulty and objectives to make sure to make. It will be about a short to medium time to victory, honestly, about one of the fastest campaigns that you can have here on the Divide and Conquer mod. Paths to victory, it will be mainly one. You would go against the remnants of Angmar, and then you go south into the Misty Mountains. You will have initial conquest, plenty of initial rebel choices, and in terms of diplomacy, as I've shown, you will have two allies and the dwarves of the Erebor and Highland Hills, and the Great Havens of Linden, and the two enemies, orcs and Misty Mountains and remnants of Angmar. It's a pretty isolated campaign, I would say. In terms of units, as you can see, the Dwarves of Ered Luin have no cavalry at all. So basically the only thing that you'll be using is the units that have missiles on them, which are quite good, I would say, heavy archers, I would say. But you will mostly be using your infantry, and for that you have plenty of good choices. Most of them are very well armored, most of them have some effectiveness against armor, and some of them are very skilled against mounts. You have about the best army that you can have in terms of units against all other unit types. It is mostly, as you've seen, infantry stuff. Of course, all of them have or most of them have specific places to build them, but you will be able to produce or outproduce the orcs very easily if you just make sure that your units survive. You don't have any access to cavalry, so if you get to a point where you can actually have some cavalry, just go for it. That's the only option that I can see, because not even mercenaries are available to you. So, still on the units of the dwarves, they have mainly infantry units, as we have already seen, and in terms of the rate of replenishment, let me show you there that it's not actually as good as any other faction nearby. 13 turns for even the basic units, and about 29 for the best ones of you. It's a little bit weaker than most dwarven factions, exactly because of that. It has a very low rate of replenishment, and it doesn't have as much utility on their units. Most of the units that you will be able to use are infantry. It doesn't have any access whatsoever to cavalry. You don't even get to build the stables. However, you will be able to build some archer units, and you should do so as fast as possible, just to make sure that you get at least a stable army in the beginning. Your initial army will be very powerful, and your elite army would be basically the same with heavier infantry. Of course, considering your foes, you will have the perfect army to deal with them. They won't be able to go through your infantry in the beginning and not even on the elite army focus. Of course, you will have some troubles in pursuing your foes, so whenever you get the chance to recruit any cavalry at all, do so. I would advise to just hold on here to on Thorin's halls and maybe conquer some rebel settlements nearby with the units that you start with, and then make sure that you keep going on over to the north in terms of the units. Of course, that you will have a very brute force static in terms of the composition that you're going to use on the unit, on your armies. It will be heavy infantry with some weak archer support. Honestly, of all the dwarven factions, I believe it's the one more focused into heavy infantry. In terms of buildings, actually, they have quite some advantages. The mines, especially these ones, will provide a lot of income for you in the beginning, and you still have the benefits as all dwarves from the blacksmiths and their upgrades, because you will get a lot of heavier infantry, and you should use this one as well. You should abuse in terms of buildings the miners' quarters for the number of free upkeep units and the recruitment slots. This should be very important in the beginning to make sure that you get the most out of your finances as well. Finances will be very good even though you have high upkeep costs because you have so many good buildings, but do make sure that if you're not going for any early war, just to keep them garrisoned for the free upkeep, of course. Overall, you have some good settlements. I would say that Ered Luin itself, it's the best, or Thorin's Halls itself is the best settlement that you'll have. So concentrate your efforts in improving this settlement here. You have a good relation with the army. I would say medium, actually, simply because most of your units will be able to be replenished whenever it is a city or a castle, but you will also have plenty of units that can only be recruited on specific cities, so not exactly the best rate of replenishment for units, and not exactly the best one in terms of relation of buildings with army, of course. Overall, just concentrate on the mines. That would be my advice. Concentrate on getting an armorer and getting mines for the income, and then every single other building just to make sure that you still have the equipment slots and some increase in tradable goods and other stuff. In terms of agents, instead of starting with nothing, you actually start with the diplomat right here. Do abuse it initially to get some good income going and some trades going, just to make sure that you get that you are always producing in the early game. I would advise two diplomats, one that would go through this area and get every single faction here, and another one that would go actually through the middle of the map, you know, into breathe Northern Dunedain and talk with everything else. In terms of the spies, I would only use the spies on this area. There's nothing to be afraid on this site, on this place of the map, until quite late into the game, where you will have mostly other spies. The clans of Enedwaith, who are nearby, will have a long time before they even reach the Thorin's halls. Um, I would say that the assassins, in terms of the assassins, I would use them to counter the units of Karn Durn, especially the work cages. So use them to sabotage their work cages. That would be a nice idea if you really want to go with the assassins on this map or in this campaign. Of course, you have some rebel settlements that you can capture initially, so you can use your spies initially to check out where those are. Let's resume the faction of the Dwarves of Ered Luin. Their strong points are actually the heaviest infantry on all of this spot. No one will be able to match your infantry on this location for pretty much the whole campaign. It has, of course, a good time to victory, as I've shown you here, because you only need to destroy the Orc factions, which are fairly weak. Their weak points, no cavalry at all. and many battles to fight because of that. Of course, you will have to fight the battles several times because they will survive them. You have an isolated and a pretty slow start, but you should be able to get advantage of that by taking up to some heavy units in order to offset the fact that you don't have too many units available in the beginning. I would recommend building at least the basic unit dwells of every single building if you can initially to make sure that you get always good units. Generals, I would say that we have three decent generals, not a single one over seven command, but still you will pretty much be using these generals on your army, so it will be fairly easy to level them all up. In terms of buildings and unit synergy, as I've already said, there's very good synergy between the buildings and the units that you'll be using. Most of your units will be coming out from two buildings, so you don't have to level up too much. You know, just level up the town guard and that will be fine for this. So pretty much you're off to a good start with the buildings. You won't need too many buildings to really pump up the units that you need. Most units actually benefit from your buildings, so and the good finances will be in order for you to keep going. Time to victory, as I've said, short to medium. Certainly one of the faster campaigns. And overall overview, I would say that it is pretty much the heavy infantry faction to use. If you really like infantry, just start with this faction. It is certainly a very interesting faction to start with, but I wouldn't go into this unless you're really an infantry fan. Overall, I would of the three dwarven races, it's about the one that requires most care of your infantry forces. I hope you enjoyed this review of the Dwarves of Ered Luin. For more reviews, please subscribe. Cheers, guys!